Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. So today we are in the home of Parul Mataji and Prabhu, Jagdish Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And today most likely is the concluding session of this story or this discussion that we have been having on Bharat Maharaj. Also, it's sort of you just moved into this home. So about less than 2 weeks. So that's very nice that you're instantly using your home for Krishna Katha. So thank you so much. And we will start with our recitation of Mangalacharan prayers. So I will share the screen here on the Zoom. So if possible, we can all recite together. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tharine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are the Mangalacharan prayers. Mangalacharan means Mangala Acharana. So it creates Mangala means auspiciousness. So when we discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, we want auspiciousness in our heart so that we can understand this topic better. And these prayers, if we did not read the translations, but all these prayers that we read are prayers to the Lord or the devotees of the Lord to get their blessings so that we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam nicely. So Srimad Bhagavatam is among all the Puranas, there are 18 Puranas, and Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the most important Purana. And it is the last work of Sri Vyasadeva. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, he has put the topmost knowledge that he has gathered from compiling all the Vedas, all the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, Vedanta, everything. The essence of everything has been put in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we also pay our respect to the personalities, the persons who are responsible for bringing Srimad Bhagavatam to us. Of course, one of them is Sri Vyasadeva. But the actual speaker of Bhagavatam is considered to be Sri Sukadeva Gosvami, who is sitting here on the chair. Let me share the screen for everyone. Are you able to see the PowerPoint on the Zoom? Okay, great. So there is Sukadeva Goswami sitting here, and the listener is Parikshit Maharaj. This will be a little bit relevant for today. Parikshit Maharaj is the grandson of Arjun. Arjun, the same Arjun who fought the Mahabharata and heard the Bhagavad Gita from Shri Krishna. So Parikshit, out of some arrangement of destiny, he was cursed to die in 7 days. And he made the best use of 7 days, which is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the best person who was available on the planet at that time, which is Sukadeva Goswami. And when this conversation was occurring on the banks of river Ganges or Ganga, everybody else, all the big rishis and kings and many other people came and heard Srimad Bhagavatam. Nobody wants to miss this opportunity. There was no recording at that time. There is no rewind and replay like we have today. But it was all recorded by Vyasadeva as Sri Bhagavat Puran. So this is the same picture, just a different art. And then it was retold by Sri Suta Goswami, who heard. He was one of the people who was sitting there, and he retold it to other sages. And like that, in this way, by hearing, the hearer again goes and retells. Then the hearer goes and retells, and it gets transmitted to us. There is no transmission errors, by the way, in this process. So we will start with reciting. Please, if possible, recite with me or recite after me. So we'll do like lead follow. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So the next verse is our offering of our respect to 4 personalities. You can read the translation. We have a lot of material to cover, so I will make it quick. So you can read, but we will recite. This is our offering of our respects to 4 personalities who are very important before we read Srimad Bhagavatam. So please repeat after me. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraet. The 4 personalities are Lord Narayan himself, Nar Narayan Rishi, Goddess Saraswati, and Vyasadeva himself. So that is the meaning. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir
Bhagavati Uttam Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhakti Bhakti Naishtaki.
This verse is explaining what happens when we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. 2 things happen. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. Whatever is abhadra in our heart, whatever darkness is there in our heart, it becomes nashta. It becomes destroyed. And Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Bhakti becomes situated. So darkness in our heart gets removed and it is replaced with bhakti. So that is the consequence or the result of reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And this Bhagavatam is Bhagavati Uttama Shloki. It is the topmost knowledge, topmost set of shlokas have been combined into Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why it's called Bhagavati Uttama Shloki. And the last one is just our prayers to Lord Krishna. Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Nandagopa Kumaraya
Nandagopukaya
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Govindaya Namo Namah.
Thank you so much for reciting these. So now we will continue our discussion. So today we'll make it a little bit quicker, shorter class, and then we will do a lot of kirtan because it's a festive occasion of welcoming devotees into the new home. So we have been reading this topic of the 3 lives of Mahārāja Bharata. And this spans 8 chapters in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I have the 5th canto here. This is one among 12 cantos. Canto is like a skandha. Skandha means a volume or a canto. So this is the 5th canto. And within this, a major part is, as you can see, 8 chapters are 7 to 14 dedicated to this topic. We have already covered till 12th chapter. Today is the 6th or 7th session in this series, probably the last one. So very quick recap. King Bharat is the son of Rishabhdev. We did a series on Lord Rishabhdev as well. Lord Rishabhdev is a incarnation of Lord Vishnu. His eldest son is Bharat. On his Bharat, because that is the Bharat based on whose name we call Bharatvarsh. So he was the king and he ruled very nicely for a very, very long time. And then he gave his kingdom to his son or his children and went to the forest for doing spiritual progress. So, because that is the final purpose of, or the ultimate purpose of one's life. So he left his family, he left everything and went to the forest to do his bhakti. But what happened there, by again some turn of events, he saw a child of a deer, a baby deer. And he thought, let me save the baby deer. There was nobody to look after the deer. So he brought that deer out of the river. The deer was about to die. It was just floating in the river without a mother. So he rescued the deer. And then slowly, he got attached to the deer. So he basically left his real family back home, but he created a new family. The exact thing that he wanted to give up and detach himself from and attach himself to bhakti, he kind of faltered and made a new family. This is what happens to all of us. So he became so attached to the deer. All the time he was with the deer. He was trying to do his spiritual practice, but even while doing his practice, his mind was always on the deer. So like this, his spiritual practices suffered. And as it is said in Bhagavad Gita, that at the end, the last moment, Antakala. So this is the 8th verse, 8th chapter, 5th verse. Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So whatever you remember at the last moment of your life, yah prayati samad bhavan sada tad bhava bhavitaha. That bhava or that you become in your next life. So because he was just remembering the deer at his deer as in D-E-A-R, deer, D-E-E-R, his very precious or very loving deer, he, instead of thinking of Bhagavan at the end of his life and going back to Bhagavan, he got a deer's life in the next life. He became a deer. So it's very important to think of Bhagavan at the end of our life so that we can go and go back to Bhagavan. But unfortunately, he became a deer. But Bharat Maharaja's spiritual practice was not simple. It was already very, very, very strong. So just to show this point, that whatever thought we have at the last moment of our life, that you become, the Lord made him into a deer, but because of his intense, Hare Krishna, because of his intense spiritual practices in his previous life, he was a special deer. And this is directly mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that this was not an ordinary deer. This was a deer that remembered his past life. And he remembered that he was King Bharat in his previous life, and how he became a deer in this life. He faltered in his spiritual practice, and therefore he became a deer. And he remembered the spiritual teachings also, how the law of dharma works, how Lord's arrangement works. So he remembered all that. So he became a sadhu deer. Sadhu deer means he immediately took a vow, I'm not even in the body of a deer, I'm not going to get attached to anything. So he did not attach himself to a female deer, for example, or do anything that, he did not even used to eat lush green grass, like when we all see halwa, puri, nice things we like to eat. Who will want to eat salad or khichdi when there is nice things? But he, even if he had lush green grass to eat, he would go eat dry leaves so that he would not attach himself. And he went back to the same place where he was doing his spiritual practices and lived there and passed his life. Then in the next life, so that's why this story is called the 3 lives of King Bharat. 3 lives. So what is the first life? King Bharat. What is the second life? Deer, special deer. In the third life, he takes birth in the family of a Brahman. And he was a perfect, Brahman, and very, very learned, very intelligent. One of the most sharp and intelligent and wise Brahmans he became. But in this life, he remembered his past 2 lives. He remembered how he was King Bharat. And then he became a deer. And by this time, Bharatvarsh was very famous. It was the sort of the world superpower, or whatever you call, right? And he knows he was the one who made it that way. So he remembered all that. He remembered his greatness. But he acted like a dumb man, because nobody wants to attach himself to a dumb man, right? Today we were attending a marriage ceremony, and there was this one kind of guy who came and this was in downtown, and he just came and started yelling. Probably he was high or something like that. And everybody, all the celebration stopped, and everybody was just waiting for him to just go. After like 2-3 minutes of doing whatever he did, then when he left away, then so who wants to associate with such a person? Everybody wants like, okay, chalo bhai, jao. Once you leave, then we will start our work, right? So like that, he was acting. He wasn't like that, but he wasn't abusing others or doing bad things, but he was acting completely dumb, so that nobody would want to attach himself or themselves to him, right? Who would want to go and talk to such a person, embrace him, have a conversation, anything? And he himself did not have any conversations, any attachment with anyone, not even with his brothers and sisters. So he truly acted like a dumb person. And like this, he was passing his life, because he was very sure that I fell down from this great position, a very advanced spiritual position. I am not going to do that again. So internally, he was always very, very spiritually focused internally, but he would never show it externally, because he knew that, one's attachments need only a small crack, and it will enter. Like the deer, he just saw a floating deer. That was the crack. And then his whole thing went down from there. So in this life, he would not let that happen. So that is the third life of Jada Bharata. And then there is one more episode where he is saved by the Lord. So we will skip that, where some dacoits try to kill him. And goddess Kali, who is, goddess, she kills the dacoits and saves him. So that's what happens. So because this shows his pure devotee aspect, how the Lord protects his devotee. So externally, he was acting like a crazy, mad person. Internally, he was a pure devotee, Shuddha Bhakta. So one time, he was, again, he was a dumb guy, so to say. So the king was going in a palanquin, palanquin, like it is shown here. And they needed one more person to lift the palanquin. 4 people are needed. So they said, okay, come on, you be one of those people. So he said, okay, no problem, I will lift it. But he was so kind in his heart. The devotees are always kind to everyone. Not like that person whom we met in downtown and he was saying all bad things and abusing and this and that. Not like that, but he would, he was very kind to everyone, but he didn't like, he would act like a fool. So here it is shown that as he was walking, he was making sure he doesn't step on any ants, because he wanted to make sure that the ants don't get hurt. And like this, when he was walking like this, the palanquin was going up and down or a little bit shaking, and the king got very agitated. And incidentally, the king was going, this was like a ride, motorcade or whatever you can call for the king. Today you go in like Mercedes car, but this was the Mercedes of that time. Coincidentally, he was going to a spiritual seminar. But his mind was so uncontrolled that just because his palanquin was being shaken, he assumed that my ahankar is being shaken. How come people cannot carry my palanquin in a straight way? I am the king. They should carry my palanquin in the best possible way. Who do they think they are? Like that. So just the palanquin was shaking, but his ego got shaken in the process. And he gave him a piece of his mind. Peace as in P-I-E-C-E. Like he took out his utmost anger on Jada. So in that life, his name was Jada Bharata. His name was Bharat. People used to call him Jada Bharata, like crazy Bharat, or fool, or whatever, idiot. Or so he gave him a piece of his mind. He took out all his anger on Jada Bharata. And Jada Bharata did not say anything. He just heard whatever he heard, and then again started carrying like this. But again, then he got very angry. He said, I will kill you if you don't carry my palanquin properly. Then he said, there are these ants. I want to make sure they don't die. And like this, he explained the nature of the soul in every living entity. He said, it's not like only you have a soul. Even these ants have a soul. And we should take care of them as well. You are the king. You are supposed to take care of all your citizens. Even these ants are your citizens. What about them? And all these upadhis, you understand? Positions are temporary. In this life, you are the king and I am your servant. I am the carrier. Next life, maybe I will be king and you will be the carrier. So like this, then King Rahuguna, the king's name was Rahuguna. Then he got a jolt. Oh my God. Like, he knew the theory. He never applied it in his life. And because he never applied in his life, the instantaneous reaction was that of, like we all have, anger and greed, whatever maybe the reactions, not spiritually inclined reactions, but materially inclined reactions. So we can hear as much as we want, unless we apply it or try to apply it in our life. You can watch all the videos you want on getting healthy, eating lean food, this, that. Unless you actually cook whatever they are telling on the video, it will not help, right? By watching videos, you cannot lose weight, can you? So we all try to lose weight, but only we read books about it and watch videos. So that is called theoretical knowledge. So he was an expert in theoretical knowledge, but at least when Jada Bharata told him this theoretical knowledge, he got a jolt. Oh my God, who is this person? And then he fell to his feet. So that is the picture you see here. He is now asking for forgiveness. I'm sorry I offended you. And please reveal who you are. And you are speaking, and he thought, I'm going to this seminar to hear all these wonderful things. Let me have my seminar right now. This is the best person to listen from. He knows all the things that I want to hear. Let's do our seminar right now. So he asks many nice questions, and Jada Bharata answers all those questions. What is the purpose of one's life? And what is the duty of a king? And all these, there are several questions. We covered all of those in the previous sessions. The recordings are all present on YouTube. You can watch, or you can just read Srimad Bhagavatam. Where did it go? This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. So like this, there are 12 cantos. So it occupies one whole shelf. So if you want, you can purchase this from the temple, the entire set. And it has all the verses, plus it has nice pictures in the middle, nice plates. Here you can see. So here you can see that picture of Bharat. It's nice, children also like this. And so all that and many other pictures. And definitely all the verses, Sanskrit shlokas, their translations, commentary, everything is there. So the whole set is available in the temple for $225. And if you want, we can come and install it in your house, do a little ceremony properly. All that we can do from the temple's side. So very nice thing to obtain and read. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah, so he answered all these questions. And then King Rahuguna asked, who are you? And then he sees that this King Rahuguna, now obviously Jada Bharata used to act like a fool, but he saw the sincerity in Rahuguna in that moment, that when Rahuguna melted, then he saw that yes, he's asking the questions genuinely. And in that genuine moment, Rahuguna asks, who are you? And then he reveals his identity. That 2 lives ago, I was Bharat. Said, which Bharat? Said, the Bharat. There's only one, the Bharat. Said, like, the Bharat? Then he was like, again, he got a shock. First, he got a shock that, oh my God, he's not a fool. He's some great personality, and he didn't turn out to be some great personality. He turned out to be the King Bharat, after whom the Bharatvarsh is named. So then he asks for more learnings from. So this is where today's session will start. Today's topic starts here. So a lot of discussions have already happened. And so far we left it at where Jada Bharat reveals his true identity of being King Bharat. That's not his true identity, but at least his past identity. True identity is always spiritual. Even King Bharat was just a bodily position. What happened to him? Next life, he became an animal. I mean, a special animal, but still an animal. So the final question that he asks, so this is a sort of, now we are those who are kind of interested in kind of mapping it with Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 5, chapters 13 and 14, the final two chapters of this whole episode. So this one is a difficult topic. Difficult means not difficult to understand, but it is difficult to digest. So it is little heavy topic, but today we will make it little simple, keep it little at a little diluted level. But if ever you feel the need for a bitter medicine, you can go read the 13th and 14th chapters of 5th canto. And bitter medicine is the one that always acts fast, isn't it? So if you want the fast acting medicine, usually, generally, when you don't add sugar and don't add a lot of other ingredients, the raw medicine, so to say, then you can read this. So again, I will not compromise the sort of the essence, but I won't convey all the details, which may be a little, little too raw or hitting close to home, as I would say, or as one would say. Is anybody perfectly happy here in life? Perfectly happy. You may have a good husband or a good wife, that's fine, but do you have a good boss? You may have a good boss, but may not be a good colleagues, may not be a good mother-in-law, father-in-law, whatever, may not be good brother or sister, or relationships, that is one. Maybe everything, relationships, all are great, but you may not have money. Maybe money is there, everything is there, but health is not there. So many things. So one cannot say that one is perfectly happy, right? Even, what is that? Queen Elizabeth, her grandson, Harry, Prince Harry, he left the family, right? There was this big drama, public drama about all that. You can say that she's the Queen of England. They also have problems, right? Even Prince Charles, his wife, all public drama happened with. You can say that, born in a silver spoon, that's what it is called, right? And so anyway, so the question he asks, final question, how can I get free from these material attachments? There are so many material attachments that we have which prevent us from making spiritual progress. So how to become free from material attachments? So Jada Bharata, that's the final question. Jada Bharata does not mince words. He does not sugarcoat the answer. And he gives a little heavy answer, which will kind of give you a sense of what is to come. So the first thing he says is that, or the only thing he says is that, unless one is totally disgusted with material life, unless one is totally disgusted with material life and sense gratification, all this, whatever samsara we have built around us, unless that happens, it is difficult to cut the material attachments. And there is a very nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which in our Bhakti Shastri course is a mandatory verse to memorize. It goes like this: Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Aprahita Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadhau na Vidhiyate. Means that Bhoga Aishwarya, Bhoga, Bhoga matlab Bhogana, means to, you can say enjoy or suffer. Dukh Bhogana, Sukh Bhogana, so Bhogana. But here it is Sukh Bhogana, Aishwarya. It's not Dukh, Sukh. So Bhoga Aishwarya. Aishwarya means lot of richness, opulence, everything, all departments of life are perfect. So Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktanam means one who is too much into this Bhoga Aishwarya. Taya Aprahita Chetasam. His mind gets lost. Aprahita Chetasa. His mind gets lost in that whole forest. And it's a analogy. You can see a forest on top here. So we'll talk about forest. So in this forest of material attachments, he becomes lost. Vyavasatyatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. Na vidhiyate means does not occur or does not happen. What does not happen? Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau means one-pointed vyavasayatmika, one-pointed buddhi, one's in buddhi, one-pointedly to samadhau, to spiritual progress. Does not happen. So too much material, is kind of unfortunate. That is the answer he gives. Now we are all nice, well people. Now nobody is dying of hunger here. Everybody seems to be nice, well-to-do family. It is little hard. That is why it is little hard. We all want to make spiritual progress, but always takes a backseat. Always. So these kind of pravachan, this is not a pravachan, it's not a motivating talk, because motivating talk is just like that. Okay, after it is over, okay. Now what is there to eat? What next TV show to watch? What to, all the other stuff. Life takes over. So in that context, Jada Bharata narrates an allegory. Allegory, you understand? A story, a example, a sort of a analogy of a forest. So he says that I will explain you an allegory of a forest, a merchant in a forest, to give you an idea of the miseries in the material world, to give that idea. What are the miseries in the material world? So what does the merchant do? He enters the forest to work hard to get some wood or fruits or whatever, minerals, whatever may be the case, to acquire some articles so that he can come back and sell for a profit. Okay, so he enters the forest to get some objects of enjoyment. That is the point. So we also enter the material world, the samsara, for some objects of enjoyment. We think there is something to be obtained for our enjoyment. So the merchant enters the forest to obtain such things. And then what happens, though the structure of the chapters is that Jada Bharata explains to, who is he explaining to? Who's listening? King Rahuguna. He explains how the merchant, what happens to him in the forest. So many things he will explain. And that is the end. And King Rahuguna understands it. And then we will see he says very nice things to Jada Bharata, takes his blessings, and that is the end. Who is listening to this story? Yeah, but that is being told by whom? This whole history of Bharat Maharaj, 3 lives of Bharat Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit. Parikshit asks, what is the meaning of all this? He couldn't understand it. Then Sukadeva Goswami, that is in the 14th chapter, explains the mapping or the details. What was the meaning of this thing in the forest and that thing in the forest? Then the actual meaning of that is given by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj for our benefit. So that is how the 13th and 14th chapters are organized. So we will deal with it together. Are you following? So I won't go over every point. Some of the points are really hitting close to home. So I urge you to read it, especially when you are a little got a little slap from life. Then maybe a good time to read, to see what's going on. So anyway, so first he mentions the moment one enters into the forest, the merchant enters into the forest, there are 6 very powerful plunderers who attack him. Who are the 6 powerful plunderers? The 6 senses. What are the 6 senses? Our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, and what is the 6th sense? The mind. And then he's attacked by those. There are more things he's attacked by. Please read it by yourself sometime. Okay. Then there are mosquitoes who bite him in the forest. And the mosquitoes are described as envious people in one's life who trouble him. I'm going faster now. And then it's very sunny, 100-degree temperatures like we are experiencing these days. Very extremely hot and scorching. And he's looking for water. And he finds in a long distance, he sees some water. And he goes there, and what does he see? Mirage. A mirage. So it's like, we run after material happiness, but we don't find it. Finally, he finds a river, and he's so dry and so thirsty, he jumps into the river. And then what happens? He gets hurt because the river was shallow. He didn't adequately measure the depth of the river, right? On the shallow end of the swimming pool, what do they say? No diving, right? Only on the deep end, diving is allowed. So he gets hurt. So like this, he climbs hills and mountains, but still he doesn't find the object he came for, which means we make elaborate arrangements, we move earth and heaven together, as we say, in search for happiness. And happiness is just elusive. And sometimes he steps on a snake and gets bitten, or some insect, some deadly insect, not fatal, but still. And then he is in pain for a very long time. They are called impulsive decisions we make. Has anybody made such a decision which you regretted, but then you have to suffer the consequences for a long time? My
son says embrace the consequences, not suffer.
Sure. That's a positive way. You can probably get
He keeps telling me every time I say something, he's like, "Mommy, you have to embrace the consequences."
Sure. But wouldn't it have been nice to have some self-control at that moment, to not even do those impulsive things, and then whether you have to suffer or embrace, right? So we make those mistakes. So like this, there is a lot of, and in that, sometimes he picks up enmity with people, then he gets cheated by people, then sometimes he has to beg, borrow, steal, he gets disgraced, so many things happen. Sometimes he gets success. So then Jada Bharata explains that even if one gets success, there is one final problem. Even for a great king, great hero, great leaders, there is one problem. What is the problem? Death. And not only death, he says there's a bigger problem. People know they die. This is little deeper than death. What do they want to do before they die? Some kings, leaders, heroes. Okay, you're on the right track, but give more, sort of, little more. Air, no. Air, I understand HEIR, but not even that.
Their name should not die, right? Like their
Aha.
name should live forever.
Yes, exactly. We call it leaving a legacy. Isn't it? Every time we say, what is the president first term in US? First term is spent in making sure he wins the second term, right? The second term is then spent in leaving a legacy. This is the general concept because you have 2-term limit. I'm talking about US politics, isn't it? Leaving a legacy. So not only the person dies, even the legacy is forgotten. We may remember Mahatma Gandhi, we may remember George Washington, but do you remember who was ruling the earth 3,000, 2,000 years ago? No. And what is 2,000 years? What is whatever, Ultimately, even the legacy dies. Not only the kings die, but even their history dies, isn't it? And that is the most that one can do, is leave a legacy. All that is perished. And the main problem he describes is that these people do not take to the spiritual path. That is the main problem. There are some very nice things, but we are short on time today. Just one more thing I will mention is that he ends up making friends with cranes, herons, and vultures. They look nice and powerful, but they are very envious and cruel. And to get relief from such people, from such cranes, one looks this time for swans. You understand the difference between crane? They look similar, but swan is superior, hamsa. So they are the Paramahamsas, or the real friends, which are the pure devotees of the Lord. So one is looking for swans, but he cannot stay or attached to the swans for too long because of one's conditioning. I'm going faster now. And in the search for the real swans, one ends up making friends with monkeys. Why monkeys? So you're looking for the sadhus. Okay, please listen carefully. You're looking for the sadhus, but you end up taking shelter of the monkeys instead of the swans. What is a monkey? Lives in the forest, does not wear any clothes, so like very renounced, so to say. and eats only nuts and fruits. Correct? Externally, he is very sadhu-like. But internally, he is only thinking about all the kind of mischief and spending time with the female monkey. So externally, so these are known as all the bogus sadhus, the bogus spiritualists. Even if one does not do all this, even if one spends his life happily in the forest, hearing the chirping birds, creepers, rivers, all this thing, finally he hears the roar of the lion, which is the call of death. And he passes away. How he passes away? Sometimes he falls from a cliff. This is compared to some kind of incurable diseases. Sometimes by his past karma, while he is falling, he can hold on to some creeper, some tree, or some like a creeper, that those kind of trees that grow along the vines. He can hold on to those and get saved, and slowly like climb back up. That is his good karma. So he somehow fell, but he takes the help of his past good karma. We do this detailed discussion in Bhagavad Gita classes and all. So, you can learn about karma and law of karma and all that. So due to the good karma, one is somehow even able to climb back up. But still one goes back to the same way of life. So this is a very, very sort of a hard, and finally one has to die. And finally, not only one dies, one's legacy also dies. So this is our biography. This is what, so it's a little heavy. Gives an opportunity to think what is the purpose of our life. That is exactly then what King Rahuguna asks. He is jolted. He's like, oh my God, so what should I do? That's the next obvious question. Okay, you're right. Please tell me what to do. To him, Jada Bharata gives 3 instructions. Become an equal friend to all living entities. Not just your friends and relatives or human beings, even everybody, to every living entity. Become an equal friend. Give up your upadhi. Whatever is your upadhi. So he was a proud king. He says, give that up. And finally, take up the Jnana Shastra, the weapon of knowledge, spiritual knowledge. So that is what is the recommendation. So even for us, we are too attached to our upadhis. So it doesn't mean we should give up our upadhi literally, but give up the attachment to our upadhi. Last class we were discussing, we won't discuss again, this whole thing about ahankar or ahamkar. When we are driving in a Mercedes, we feel that I am the Mercedes. That logo is more important than the car. In India, sometimes people put a Mercedes logo on a Maruti car. Isn't it? Whatever. So that feeds the ego. So giving up that attachment or that ego is what is being told here. Anyway, finally, we will end another 5 minutes and then we will end. 2 very, very, very important verses. So this is the instruction given by Jada Bharata to King Rahuguna. And then King Rahuguna says these 2 verses, 2 shlokas we will read, not the Sanskrit. In interest of time, I would have loved to do that. But so let me share it here. So this is, by the way, this whole Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, everything is available online, free, on this website called vedabase.io. I know it's a little small to see, but it's called vedabase.io. We will go to this Srimad Bhagavatam. First book is Bhagavad Gita, second book is Bhagavatam. So when you click on Bhagavatam, it expands into these 12 volumes. So which one should I click? Nice. Which chapter should I click? Which chapter are we on? 13th and 14th. Okay, nice. So 13th chapter. So we'll go to 13th chapter. Further talks between King Rahuguna and Jada Bharata. As you can see, 14th chapter is material world as a great forest of enjoyment, right? So we'll go to 13th chapter, verse number 21. Just the translation we will focus on, not much. So, oh, am I screen sharing? Oh, thanks. He's a smart kid. Okay. Now you can see on Zoom. Is the screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So this is now King Rahuguna is very, very thankful to Jada Bharata to understand this knowledge. And two very important points he makes in these two verses. So the first point is the value of human life. Human means nara or manushya, human life. And he says it is even better than life of a devi or devata in swarga. Why? Anybody wants to take a shot at it? You can, theoretically, you can do it in swarga. Why? Okay. Yes. Yes. Exactly. That is the first topic we connected with. In swarga, life is so, no divorce happens between Charles and Diana. Harry doesn't leave his, kingly position. There is no mother-in-law, daughter-in-law problems, no husband-wife problems. Everything is nice. So there is no, it's very hard to, no diseases, no COVID, no cancer, no anything. So it's hard to focus. Devotees are there also in Swarga. Devotees are there. What is the use of devotees being there if you don't approach them or if you don't want to spend time with them? So that desire is not there. It's not that devotees are nice, devotees are not present there. They are present. They are present, but there is no impetus or motivation or inspiration or desire to spend time with them. That is the problem. Okay? So who has a nice loud voice and can properly read? Any adult would like to read this verse loud and clear and slow in the room? Yes, 21. Do you want to do? Please.
King Rahuguna said, the birth of a human being is the best of all, even birth among the demigods in the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. What is the use of the exalted position of a demigod? In the heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with devotees.
Thank you. So what is the reason? Due to lack of devotees? No, not due to lack of devotees. Due to profuse material comforts, it is not possible to associate with devotees. And in the Sanskrit, if we go in the Sanskrit, if you click on this and you will see the Sanskrit, I won't go into that. Aho nar janma akhila janma shobhanam. Nar janma is akhila janma shobhanam. Nar janma, not deva janma. Nar janma. This is showing the, if you ever wondered among those who are listening to many classes over many years, why it is said human life is so important. Of course, in a life of a cat and dog, we cannot do spiritual progress. That is clear, more or less. But why not in the life higher than humans? Here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we get the proof, the answer. All right. Nara Janma is Akhila Janma Shobhanam. It's the best kind of life. Even the demigods aspire to take life as a birth as a human, so that they can connect with pure devotees. Okay. Last verse we will read next is 22. So the next important point, so one important point we covered was the importance of human life. Now, having got human life, what should one do? Enjoy. You can enjoy a little bit, but not just like excessive. Life is not like this, life is not meant for enjoyment. That's not the purpose. You can enjoy it to some extent to keep yourself, happy and satisfied. The purpose of life is to connect with pure devotees and make spiritual progress. And that is what is shown in the next verse, 22. Could somebody on Zoom read this nice, loud and clear, and who has not read before?
I can do that.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
It is not at all wonderful that simply by being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service to Adoksaja, which is not available even to great demigods like Brahma.
Hold on. So when Srila Prabhupada is writing the translation, when he says it is not at all wonderful, he means the way he has used always this or many times this word wonderful. It is definitely wonderful. It is awesome in that sense, but it is not astonishing. It is not surprising. So that is how we should understand the word wonderful. Wonderful means you're not like, oh, it's a surprise. It's not a surprise. It's obvious. Now, please, Prabhuji, read it again from the beginning.
It is not at all wonderful that simply by being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service to Adoksaja, which is not available even to great demigods like Brahma. By associating with you just for a moment, I am now freed from all argument, false prestige, and lack of discrimination, which are the roots of entanglement in the material world. Now, I am free from all these problems.
So the most important part, every verse has a special focus point, which our acharyas squeeze out and give us. This is the focus point of each verse, the main point. The main point, anybody can say what is the main point in this verse? I'm asking those who are sort of have been studying this Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita for a while. The focus point of this verse. Many other verses also focus on that. What is this unique point of this verse? Okay. That may be the second focus point. Okay. What else? Anybody else?
Roots of entanglement.
Root of entanglement being false prestige or ahankar and all this is there in many verses.
Associating with a pure devotee for a moment.
Yes. For a moment. How long did Rahuguna associate with Jada Bharata? How long? This whole discussion wasn't very long. He just met him because he was a carrier. And then this whole episode happened. He got angry and then he had this discussion. Probably maybe 1 hour. Very short time. And he was completely cleansed. The Sanskrit you will see it says Muhurta Muhurtikad Yasya Sangha. Muhurta, small time. Muhurt कहते हैं ना, मुहूर्त निकला जा रहा है. Means it's a short period of time. It's not, doesn't last very long. So it is referring to a short period of time. Yasya Sangaha. Your Sangha, your association I got. You're such a pure devotee. Your Sangha I got for this short period, but I was that 1 hour is more or was more valuable for me than my rest of my whole life. So that moment's association. So here, and then he offers his respects and the discussion ends and the chapter ends and the story ends. Now, just one last point I want to mention, which is not in the verses. Oops, everything is okay? Okay, that's fine. Please listen. This is an extremely important point. Probably I would say the punchline of the whole chapter or discussion today. Okay. So if you think, compare, so Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura, who is a great acharya in our sampradaya, in our Guru Parampara, he explains this, that when Parikshit Maharaja heard this whole story, there was a question in his mind, a slight doubt. What was the doubt in his mind? The doubt in his mind was, whose offense do you think, those who know the story of Parikshit Maharaj and how he got into trouble, whose offense was greater, King Rahuguna or Parikshit Maharaj? Who did more offense to another devotee? What did Parikshit Maharaj do? Just put a dead snake around his neck. That's all. Around the neck of King Shamika. Sage, Rishi. What did Rahuguna do to Jada Bharata? Shouted at him, said, I will kill you. So which one is a bigger offense? The latter, Rahuguna's. And what was Jada Bharata's reaction? Completely calm and cool. And not only that, he delivered him. He gave him such wonderful spiritual realization. So he actually rewarded him for his offense. On the other hand, what ended up happening to Parikshit Maharaj? Not by Shamika, but his son, who was less educated or was whatever. But the end reaction to Parikshit Maharaj was what? That he got cursed to die in 7 days. So Parikshit Maharaj was thinking that I committed a greater offense. He's not thinking like, oh, I'm disappointed, or mere saath aisa kyun hua? Why did this happen to me? That was not his mood. His mood was, my offense was greater. Therefore, my punishment or the reaction I got was greater. And how will I be saved now? He was saved by Jada Bharata. Who will save me? This is now 5th canto. This is not the 12th canto. So the 7 days are not over. He is probably on the 3rd day. right now, or the second day. 10th canto is huge. That takes almost 2 days out of 7. So like that he is thinking. And Sukadeva Goswami answers to him that don't think like this. You are way more fortunate than Jada Bharata. Than King Rahuguna, sorry. Because for King Rahuguna, Jada Bharata only gave him the knowledge at the level of Jnana. What you are getting from me and from other sages like Vyasadeva, Narad Muni, everybody else who is present here, you are getting the topmost knowledge, which is you are getting to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So you are double protected. First layer of protection you already got. When? What was the first layer of impeccable protection given to Parikshit Maharaj? From those who have heard. Yes. When Parikshit was in the womb of Uttara, Ashwathama had launched a Brahmastra to kill him. He wanted to finish the dynasty of the Pandavas. He was the last living heir. Of course, the Pandavas were there, and he wanted to, so he shot a Brahmastra, but Lord Krishna protected him by engulfing this embryo in the womb of Uttara, and the Brahmastra had no effect. So he said, now you are getting the second dose of booster shot. You already are protected. Now you're getting double protection because you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Nothing can happen to you. King Rahuguna still has to act on the instructions of Jada Bharata to go to the spiritual world. Simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam at the end of your life, you are guaranteed to go to the spiritual world. So your position is much, 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 much more fortunate. So don't worry about it. So that is the glory of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will end there. So like this, Parikshit Maharaj is very satisfied. King Rahuguna is also satisfied in that. And the whole episode comes to an end. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments or questions anybody has? So there's a question on the chat. Kindly mute yourself if you're not speaking. If I pray to or chant to God for someone, will God help him? Did you understand? If I pray to God for someone else, will God help him? So definitely God listens to the prayers. Definitely he listens. But that depends on whether God will help or not. Depends on the definition of help. What is the meaning of help? Who is God? Who is Bhagavan? He's not some kind of a cruel judge. Oh, you did bad things, now you go and rot in hell. Oh, you did good things, come, you enjoy. He's not this kind of a, dark kind of a, as we call, in Star Wars terminology. He's not a Sith Lord or something like that. He's Param Kripalu, Param Pita. He's a loving father. But sometimes for very naughty, mischievous, notorious children, even the father has to give a strict medicine. The child can say, oh, please, 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 father, please, 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 please. But if the father is really caring for the benefit of the child, he may not always do. Given to the request. So that depends on what request, what you are praying for. If the loving father will grant your wish, okay, fine, whatever you are praying for. Then after it has been granted, let's say you have some disease and you pray for someone and then they become well, then you also forgot the father and he also forgot the father. And what is the impression on the father? Father is just like a, like a banker. When you just run out of money, then you just write a check. Okay, I will take the check. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'll see you next time when I need money. Is that a good child? No. So yes, he will do, but sometimes he will. Or the bigger problem is not when you offend your father. Father loves all his children equally, isn't it? We never generally offend the father, or that he can tolerate. We offend the father, I take it back, but he tolerates that part very nicely. The problem is when we offend our other brothers and sisters. Everybody is a child of God. So we are all brothers and sisters. Then he has to be fair. Usually when you ask for something, it is always, not always, usually at the cost of something else, of someone else, usually. So the father has to look whether it is in your benefit or not, for your progress and for the benefit of my other child or other children. So he considers all those things which we are unable to see. We are so myopic, we just look at our little box. Okay. And in that little frame of reference, maybe he will not listen to your prayer. So you have to understand God's mentality. And once you understand his mentality, the answer is yes. Absolutely yes, he will. But when you expand your frame of reference, if you're looking only from me and mine, mam, aham, I am the center of the world, everybody should just work to make me happy, to hell with everybody else. In that definition of happiness, or will he help me? Maybe the answer is no. Okay. So that is the answer. So we have to really go deeper and understand God's mind and his priorities and his intention. And then we can get the answer. And all these answers we get from Bhagavad Gita very nicely. Bhagavad Gita is the foundational textbook, which very clearly explains. It's the manual of human life. It is supposed to be read. Any complicated machine, you first read the manual. We have lost the art of reading manuals. And people generally read Bhagavad Gita when they become old. What is the point of reading the manual when you are about to discard the device? You read the manual when you purchase the device and you begin using it, not when you are about to throw it away. What's the point of reading the manual then? That means then you did not use the device properly, or you didn't use all the functions. So Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be read as soon as possible. And then we can clearly understand the answer to these very important questions of life. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.